We continue getting reaction then to part of the budget speech that was delivered yesterday by the Finance Minister, Tito Mboweni. Of course, one of the things we've seen as a result of the lockdown restrictions is the impact in particular on small businesses in the country. While they have not been spared, as many of them have had to face the devastation of closing down, sometimes letting go of some staff and struggling to pay rent. Well, joining us now is Shabir Musa. He is the treasurer of the Black Business Council in the Free State. Shabir, good evening, and thank you so much for your time tonight. Firstly, the response of the Black Business Council then to the minister's budget speech yesterday.
Thank you very much, Kathy. I think first and foremost, you hit it spot on in terms of your earlier statements around the pandemic has really caught business at large really quite badly in terms of early last year in March 2020. We found that, look, we've all joined hands as small businesses, large businesses, to try to obviously observe the lockdown regulations and try to see how we could survive. But unlike many individuals, people with investments, small SMMEs have been suffering a large amount, particularly in relation to taking a huge pounding around them having to close down. The economy has been really tight. We are fully aware that SMMEs, I think, if I'm not mistaken, employ around 10.8 million people in South Africa. And we, as SMMEs, 66% of total employment. So we're not really fully happy with what I would say from our assessment with what has been addressed towards specifically the SMMEs, but that's just at a high level our position on that.
One of the things that was said to be a cushion and a support of sorts for small businesses was the loan guarantee scheme that was announced by the president, which was going to be facilitated through the banks. There's been very little take-up of that initiative. Why is that? Have you tried to understand?
Okay, so if I look in particularly, and we focus and we zone in on SMMEs, in particular to the Free State, and for instance, we'd look at a case in point around the Mangaung Metro Municipality. In Bloemfontein, we have the large majority of businesses in the CBD are dominated around with SMMEs. Rather, we have salons, you have small clothing stores, restaurants. These service government employees, because, well, what government has done good in terms of our CBDs is kept their sort of structures within the CBDs, and this has kept things alive. But the challenge we have, which you've just rightfully mentioned, is that there's been some, let's call it relief given from the banking system to larger corporates, to the landlords, but we don't see this filtering down to SMMEs, and that's a major challenge because SMMEs are surviving. They're the biggest contributor to employment. They're trying to survive in a constricting economy, but that we're not seeing that trickling down to the SMMEs, and that's one of our major challenges.
What would you have wanted to hear from the finance minister yesterday, which would have given you confidence that there is indeed a commitment to helping the industry push through this period and survive, and I suppose try and keep as many people in employment as possible as well?
Yeah, I think what we would have loved to have seen a bit more of a push from government. I mean, if government has given, for example, banks payment holidays, banks have given payment holidays to their clients of around 45.5 billion rand. And we're not seeing financial relief, as I said, trickling down in terms of loan guarantees, and businesses and individuals are under distress. And I think we would have loved to have seen government pushing the banking sector particularly to ease things and ensure that landlords, and I focus on landlords because SMMEs are surviving on a small business structure. In fact, in some instances, they're just barely making rent prior to lockdown. And after the lockdown, you find that landlords didn't allow SMMEs to continue operations until they paid all their outstanding rent and stuff. And this has forced a large majority of small business out of the economy. So we don't find a careful sort of addressing of this particular issue from the Minister of Finance, which I find could have been dealt with a bit better.
How long do you think it's going to take, especially for those businesses that have shut their doors, to be able to recover and potentially begin operating again?
You know, Kathy, to be honest, as the Free State Black Business Chamber, we have in excess of 100 members. We've engaged with a large majority of them. In some instances, we've tried to sort of intervene by speaking to landlords, try to get into the picture and try to see how we can assist. We've dealt with the provincial Department of Economic Development. They've been trying to assist as much as they can. And the main challenge with a lot of them is that they've gone so deep into a hole, particularly in terms of debt towards landlords in this difficult time, that they're unable to survive. And that relief and that system is really geared towards larger corporates, and the largest sector of SMMEs are Black-owned enterprises. And to be honest, understanding the dynamics of the South African economy, you would understand that there's major challenges in that sector. So we're finding from careful interaction and really going through what the main challenges and the core fundamental critical issues are, is that people have lost employees. To get people back into employment, to rejuvenate their business, access to finance and capital. These are some of the core challenges that I think are going to take some time, and we're seeing some of these challenges continuing through most of this year. They're hoping that things are going to change, because also in other sectors, we're seeing government now finally starting to spend, and this is going to help quite a lot.
Shabir Musa, the Treasurer of the Black Business Council in the Free State, thanks for your time tonight on News at Prime. An absolutely devastating situation for small and medium enterprises there. Well, South African unemployment rate has been rising steadily since 2008, with Stats South Africa saying that many job seekers have now given up. The impact of COVID-19 has made things even more difficult as people have been left vulnerable. This is following job losses. During all this, we have seen a number of retail businesses take advantage of the situation by increasing prices of essential food products, and especially those that are gaining traction in demand. We speak to Theto Ntaba, who is the spokesperson of the National Consumer Commission. Thank you so much for your time, Theto. Firstly, when it comes to these retailers that you've been investigating for different incidents of price gouging, what have you found is the modus operandi, in particular over this period of COVID-19?
Good evening, Kathy. The name is Theto. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. What we've investigated in the beginning of the COVID-19, which was last year, we found that some suppliers actually had an appetite to increase their prices with no reason. Others saw an opportunity to make more money. Others just, had an appetite to increase prices. What we are doing currently as the commission, we are investigating the price of garlic as well as the price of ginger. Our investigators are still busy with 7 suppliers. We actually added 2 more suppliers into that list. Now we're investigating 9 suppliers. We are still busy analyzing the information that we received from these 6 suppliers that we are currently engaging with.
From those retailers that you investigated, in the very beginning, this is those who were accused of inflating prices of PPE, of some of the wet wipes that were being sold. Are you finding that they are repeat offenders on this list? So they are retailers that are consistently named and being found to be taking advantage of consumers?
If you remember, Kathy, when we started investigating last year, we had a list of about 21 suppliers that we received complaints against from consumers at home. So when we do our investigation, we then sift a list to say, okay, when we check evidence provided by these suppliers, we cannot find proof that indeed they unfairly increase prices. But from time to time, you will receive or you will find one supplier, the name popping from every now and then, different products from your hand sanitizers, now garlic and whatnot. So what we want to do is to check whether these suppliers are indeed manipulating prices, or they are manipulating the opportunity. They are using this opportunity to make more money. For example, there were suppliers that we said we found they were not guilty, and those that were found guilty, we referred them to the tribunal. Others we fined up to 100,000 rands. Others we reached an agreement out, or we settled out of the tribunal.
Do you think that the sanctions that are given to these retailers is enough of a deterrent? Because effectively, you know, when they pay that fine, compared to what they have made, it sometimes is a slap on the wrist.
It is. It serves as a deterrent, not necessarily from them as suppliers. But firstly, let's try to unpack this. When we find them, when we go to the tribunal, we find them. We then agree on a particular fine, depending on their income. That's number one. Or when they say, this is our first offense, they have to come back and say, look, this is our first offense. We will then desist from engaging in this prohibited conduct. But what's important is that we see more and more suppliers taking a step back, desisting and complying with the CPA in some instances.
How much do you rely on the public to actually make you aware of some of the changes in prices? And how much work are you doing as the National Consumer Commission to actually find some of the perpetrators of this behavior?
We rely on remember, our role is to, we rely heavily on consumers when they go and monitor the market to say prices have increased. We normally make an example with my colleagues to say we are more of police when it comes to, or we play the policing role when it comes to the Consumer Protection Act. From time to time, we will have engagements with our counterparts from provincial offices. But at the same time, we rely on consumers for them to lodge a complaint with the Consumer Protection, with the National Consumer Commission, sorry. But at the same time, when we suspect where consumers complain either on social media or any other platform without them giving us a complaint form or formally lodging a complaint, the Commission has a right to initiate an investigation. And it's exactly what we did when it comes to the of garlic as well as the price of ginger. Another example was the issue of the Ford Cougar, whereby we did not wait for the consumers to come to the NCC to say this is what is happening. We initiated that investigation till the end.
How long before we know what the outcome of the investigation into ginger is?
We hope to give results very soon. Like I said, we are now left with possibly 2 or 3 suppliers. But I must say, Kathy, that the information we requested from the suppliers is quite huge. We said we need evidence starting from last year in March. So you can imagine them giving us information from different suppliers where they source these products up until now. So we're dealing with a lot of information, we're dealing with a lot of suppliers, but we hope very soon we'll be able to give South Africans that information.
Peto Ntaba is the spokesperson of the National Consumer Commission.